very clear about a question regarding the relationship between mathematics and physics because that was the real question coming in from my students mostly. But this relationship between mathematics and physics, and some of you might say, "Oh, physical world or material world." No, mathematics and physics. But of course, it's not this particular example that I'm really interested in. What I'm looking to discuss is the existence of planets between Earth and Mars, if that was the problem we were looking at. Mathematics in itself it's about abstract relations between abstract entities. That's going to be exciting tonight. Mathematics is about abstract relations between abstract entities, governed entirely by assumptions. Now, this is a lot of you are going to say, "Wow, that's great." Yes, assumptions. You know, I mean, as long as the assumptions hold, the theorems hold. Okay, my ninth grade, my ninth graders are here too. They probably know more about this than most of you graduate students. But though the assumptions might not explicitly be stated, in fact, in the first place, physics is about empirical pattern finding in the physical world. To apply a mathematical theorem to the physical world, you first need to ensure that the assumptions hold in the physical world. You know, the law of magnetism breaks when we detect magnetic monopoles, for instance. It is not so much a result of mathematics than a mathematical description of a physical assumption. And so I was going to also look into my thesis in my mind and try to pull in some of my theoretical abstracts in looking at the world in the way that I do for my thesis. And I've written four different theses so far. And it hasn't been easy. It's not right. It's not easy to write a thesis any more than it is a magnum opus. Many of you have tried writing your magnum opus and have found out just how difficult it really is to get through that because many of you edit, 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 edit. As you know, I'm a first time writer. I have this I have this wild ability to write, the first draft and it be just perfect. I've never rewritten an article in my life, my entire life. But welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We love all of you, and I appreciate all of you last night with all of your wonderful comments that came in. And Chad's been looking at the analytics, and they've been going up. Tonight, we're going to be talking about linguistics and psychology and neurology and physics and sociology. And we're going to be discussing the very perplexing nature of the human condition today, something that many of us have been talking about lately in my circles. Um, and so, you know, people wanted to get me to please provide them with an elaborate analysis of the human condition considering two contrasting perspectives. One perspective being suggesting that we are part of an infinite chain of simulations created by a higher level simulation, which we've talked about before and I've taught on many times. And the other posits that we are, let's say, biological beings existing within a physical material world. How can both of these possibilities make sense, and in what ways do they fall short? I would say, in my own words, you know. But from the standpoint where we are simulations within simulations, we have to acknowledge the increasing plausibility of the idea. Now, if we consider the exponential growth of computational power and our progress in creating realistic simulations, it becomes feasible that our reality might be a sophisticated construct, as I've talked about many times on this show over the last few weeks. Many of you were taking notes. I guess that's why I got the request for this show tonight. But this perspective kind of offers a lens through which we can question our sense of agency and the boundaries of our perceived reality. And I say perceived, I want you to really think about what that word perception means. I've taught on that many, many times. However, it's important to note that while this notion can spark philosophical contemplation, it lacks empirical evidence and it remains a theoretical conjecture, of course, which many of you have brought up, and very well so. But on the other hand, the perspective that we are biological beings in a physical world aligns with our current scientific understanding still to this day, even with all of the computational uh, calculations and analysis that we've done in physics. So there's kind of a contradiction there. The intricate workings, of our biology and the interconnectedness of our physiological and psychological processes provide very compelling evidence for our material existence. Oh, yes, it does. It does. And our capacity for sensory perception and conscious experience and physical limitations we encounter within this particular paradigm or reality all suggest a tangible physical existence. Okay. I'm trying to explain this not in PhD terms. I'm trying to make this more user friendly. Trying to dig through my mind and all of my information that I have on this subject. But now let's delve into the intriguing realm of human behavior, the discompassionate, uncaring, and divided nature we witness in our society and that Chad and I talk about all the time. Well, this could be attributed to various factors. Many of you know I'm getting my doctorate in sociology. I'm very interested in these subjects of human interaction and advanced human communications and communications of all types, actually. But the rise of the technology and mind control also are very important, though often sensationalized in many ways and misinterpreted in many ways. But that has indeed influenced our behavior, ladies and gentlemen. The exposure to social media, echo chambers, filter bubbles, and all kinds of algorithmic manipulation has contributed to the reinforcement of pre existing biases and the polarization of public opinion, if you will. This is a very complex subject, which I'm currently writing a book about this pre existing biases and this polarization of public opinion. Um, and of course, additionally, the impact of environmental factors on our biology cannot be ignored. The biology and the biology, both. GMOs, fluoride in the water that we talk about all the time on this show, subjects that, surrounded by controversy, warrant careful examination, though, as we always try to do. We talked about that last night. But research suggests no significant adverse effect on human health. A lot of research, which is paid for, bought and paid for by Big Pharma and other major agencies and entities and organizations, with pseudoscience coming in, it confuses a lot of people with the widespread dissemination of misleading information. It can fuel fear and distrust, thereby fostering all kinds of discompassion and division. And discompassion and division is something that we talk about here again all the time. So I wanted to try to bring all of these up to where that everyone would get kind of an idea and go back over what we had talked about previously. But our complex social structures and high level activities beyond our understanding can result in all kinds of power dynamics that perpetuate inequality. I've talked about people's lack of education, people's lack of maturity, people's lack of ability within the paradigm of capacity, but this can lead to frustration and anger and a sense of helplessness among individuals. Um, those factors combined with the rapid pace of modern life and information overload and the erosion of traditional support systems, which I've taught on for hundreds of shows. This erosion of traditional support systems can contribute to emotional immaturity, paranoia, and depression. And, it can contribute to multiple types of psychosis or abnormal psychology. It's crucial to approach each and every one of these concerns with an evidence-based and nuanced perspective. Okay, recognizing the influence of social factors on individual behavior is paramount. You know that I'm very strong on this. Promoting critical thinking, empathy, and fostering a sense of community can counteract the toxic aspects of our current climate of thinking, which is very negative and very paranoid and very stressful and very depressive and very confusing, as I've said. But moreover, emphasizing education and promoting scientific literacy that's not bought and paid for by the deep state, and encouraging open dialogue and transparency can equip all of us with the tools necessary to navigate an increasingly complex world or matrix, as many of you like to call it. And some of the things that I've thought about, the perspectives of being a simulation within a simulation and being biological creatures in the physical world present captivating intellectual possibilities. But, while the former lacks empirical evidence at this time, the latter aligns with the current scientific understanding, as did Newtonian physics at one time. But this has all changed and is changing even as we speak today. As for the discompassionate, uncaring, and divisive tendencies we witness, they stem from a myriad of societal and technological and psychological factors. But we need to address these factors through very informed action, which is what I try to bring to the show and have for the last 5,000 plus shows. We need to strive to create a more compassionate, cohesive, and harmonious human condition. And that's kind of where I was going last night with my thoughts on changing some of the ways that I handle my life and walking my path. You know, um, the perspective on the human condition is fascinating, and I want to delve deeper into the contrasting perspectives that have been presented previously. I want to elaborate on the concept of simulations within simulations and the implications it might have for our understanding of reality and consciousness itself. The idea of simulations within simulations is rooted, in the concept that our reality is a product of a higher level simulation, which itself exists within another simulation, forming an infinite chain of simulations. And this concept emerges from advancement in massive computing power and the possibility that advanced civilizations might create complex simulations for various purposes, such as studying their own history or exploring hypothetical scenarios in some sociological forms that we're not even familiar with yet, or possibly time travel. And if we consider, or if you consider the plausibility of simulations, it prompts profound questions about our understanding of reality and consciousness itself. I want y'all to really think about what I'm saying here. If our perceived reality is what I call a simulation, what does that mean for our concept of self and free will? Are we merely puppets in a grand simulation, or do we still possess some level of agency within the constraints of this constructed reality? Now, I've written thousands of lines of code on this, and it's very interesting, and sometimes I'll share that with you all. But additionally, the simulation hypothesis raises philosophical inquiries into the nature of consciousness itself, which is the hard question I'm always talking about. And if consciousness emerges or manifests from complex computational processes within the simulation, what does that imply about the nature of subjective experience? Can consciousness transcend the boundaries of the simulation or interact with the higher level simulation? Now, this is what I've been talking about teaching many of you. If I should take you on as a student, you know that I don't take very many students on. I haven't taken on 3 this year. But this is something that I can teach you to transcend if consciousness emerges from complex computational processes within the simulation. What does that imply about the nature of subjective experience? And we have to define subjective experience. Can consciousness transcend the boundaries of the simulation or interact with the higher level simulation? This is an interesting question. Very, very interesting questions. But while these ideas offer intriguing avenues for speculation and philosophical exploration, which is what we do on this show, it's important to approach them with some skepticism, of course. The simulation hypothesis currently lacks concrete empirical evidence and remains within the realm of theoretical speculation only because many of you have not gone beyond the 27th level of top secrecy, or ultra level or premium level or platinum level top secrecy, as we call it, or SAP. Many of you have not reached and never will reach that country club, as George Carlin says. And so I'm not allowed to give you some information tonight that I am strictly bound by secrecy on. But scientifically validating or refuting this hypothesis poses immense challenges because it requires assessing information or artifacts from higher level reality, which exists, but I cannot tell you on this show how that is. But it does exist, so that must be a hint that we are in a simulation, in fact, but I cannot tell you how this connects to your current misrepresentation or paradigm that you're living in a physical material reality. So I've shedded some light on the complexities of the simulation hypothesis. Now let's pivot to the perspective that we are biological beings living in a physical material world. How does that perspective align with our current scientific understanding? And what evidence supports the view? It's an excellent question. The perspective that we are biological beings existing within a physical material world, it finds support in our current scientific understanding in many circles. Through the fields of biology, neurology, and physics mostly, we have uncovered numerous insights that substantiate this viewpoint. But now we are finding substrates, and we're finding this substrate paradigm, if you will. And this substrate paradigm has changed all of our calculations, and us being able to look now into and beyond the Planck level at the lower end of the atomic scale has definitely shown us that we are pixels, not pixies, but pixels. In biology, the study of genetics and evolution and the intricate processes of life provides compelling. Um, I can't. I've been trying. I've been trying to. You keep flipping in and out. I don't know what's going on. You keep flipping in and out, in and out. I keep trying to get you back, and my button won't work. What's going on with that, Chad?
I have no clue. I sent you right back, and I've been sitting in the queue for like 15 minutes waiting for you to bring. I've messaged you. I've sent you tons of messages on your
Yeah,
account.
none of it coming in. Nothing's coming in. Marion
Yeah,
said.
sent to your email. Not your email. I sent it to your posted on YouTube.
You know what they're doing. You know what they're just trying to
Mhm.
mess with us, mess with our heads. They're trying to mess with our heads. Anyway, scientifically validating or refuting this hypothesis, ladies and gentlemen, poses immense challenges, of course, as it requires assessing information and artifacts from a higher level of reality if it exists at all, and we do know that it does exist. Now, remember, I'm speaking both from on a not need to know level and a need to know level and a non top secret, non classified level to a classified top secret level, but I have to be careful how far I go into the top secret and beyond top secret. But we've shed some light on the complexities of the simulation hypothesis, and now I want to pivot to the perspective that we are biological beings living in a physical material world. I'm trying to recap some of this for Chad because he missed some of this. But how does this perspective align with our current scientific understanding, and what evidence supports this view? It's an excellent question. The perspective that we are biological beings existing within a physical material world finds support in our current scientific understanding in circles that have been bought and paid for, of course, through the fields of biology, neurology, and physics, and all of those who work within those fields. They've uncovered numerous insights we have that substantiate this particular viewpoint. But there again, viewpoints can be bought and sold. And viewpoints are bought and sold like guns are bought and sold in pawn shops all the time. And in biology, the study of genetics and evolution and the very intricate processes of life provides compelling evidence of our biological nature. Of course, when you look at the data that's out there that's been bought and paid for, we can trace our lineage back through billions of years of evolution. I want you to think about that, connecting us to a vast web of life on Earth, which many of the Christians ignore or refuse to talk about because they believe the Earth was created in 7 days and God rested on the sixth day, and the dinosaurs were with the people, and the Neanderthals were all together with, and it's just crazy, insane stuff, right? So there's all of these different perspectives, and we'll talk about that and perceptions and perspectives and complexities of thought and emotion and input and education and research and so forth, indoctrination and programming. But the complexity and diversity of life, including human beings, can be understood through the principles of natural selection, is what they say, and the gradual accumulation of genetic variations over time. But time does not exist. Time has been taken out of the equation along with space, and for very good reasons. And yes, Bill, I will go over that tomorrow night, not tonight. This is very, very complex. It's hard for me to bring this information to the table and put it in words that the basic humanoid or avatar can understand. I'm trying not to speak from my doctorate level tonight. Neurology offers a lot of further evidence for our material existence, of course, if you look at it very carefully. The functioning of our brains, the seat of our consciousness and cognitive processes, which I've gone in depth on in many shows over the years. This can all be observed through advanced imaging techniques, okay? We can map neural pathways now. We can identify regions responsible for specific functions in the temporals and the occipitals and the parietals and the foramens and the deep foramens, and observe how brain activity correlates with subjective experiences. So there's a correlation, seemingly, there's a correlation between observation and how brain activity correlates with the subjective experience that's being described, which in our new physics is impossible. But yet it happens within the illusion or paradigm of the senses within the cerebral cortex and the frontal cortex and the visual cortex. This connection between the brain function and conscious awareness strongly supports the notion that our existence is rooted in a biological realm, but yet within the illusion of a biological realm, within the reality of a non realitive simulation. And you all can ask questions in chat if you have any about that later. But physics, the study of fundamental laws governing the universe provides a very intricate framework for understanding the physical nature of reality, from the principles of thermodynamics, which many of you are familiar with, to the subatomic realm, which we talked about a while ago, explored by our quantum mechanics and our calculations, and our understanding of the physical world continues to expand. Our illusion of our understanding of what we think is the physical world continues to expand. The interactions of matter and energy, which now we know that matter does not exist, the fundamental forces that shape our universe, popping in and out here. I'm trying to do my best to bring all of this in and out. Chad just keeps jumping back and forth like a frog. I don't know what's going on with this. It's unbelievable. I'm just having a
And I'm great now.
well, it's the show that I'm doing has a lot of little secrets of classified information planted within it, little seeds, and they don't want that to happen. But the functioning of our brains, ladies and gentlemen, the seat of our consciousnesses and cognitive processes can be observed through advanced imaging techniques, as I said. We've learned to map these neural pathways, identify these regions responsible for specific functions, which is very interesting when you look at it from a simulation standpoint. And we've learned to observe how brain activity correlates with subjective experiences and objective experiences also. But this connection between brain function and conscious awareness, it strongly supports the notion that our existence is rooted in the biological realm, of course. For those who are very uneducated and those who have not done the research and those who have not gone down those deep rabbit holes, and looked at the higher physics and the higher mathematics that would indicate that we are in the simulation. And furthermore, physics, the study of fundamental laws governing the universe, provides somewhat of a framework for understanding the physical nature of reality within the simulation. And from the principles of thermodynamics, which Mary was one of the nurses for the gentleman, Mr. Terry Hill, Dr. Terry Hill, who invented thermodynamics, to the subatomic realm explored by our quantum mechanics that we do, our understanding of the physical world continues to expand tremendously every day. And to a physicist, that means the simulation. The interactions of matter and energy, which again, matter does not exist. The fundamental forces that shape the universe and the intricate balance of cosmic phenomena all contribute to the notion that we exist within a physical material reality. I will say that it's a wonderful mystery and it's a wonderful trick that the brain is able to pull off this fantastic illusion of physical material reality. But we're presenting here tonight some scientific evidence supporting our biological existence in the physical world. But you know, I want to shift our focus to the discompassion, division, and other negative aspects that were mentioned in our social climate today, which is causing all of the seemingly uh, dysfunctions, problems, dangers that we seem to be facing today, chaos. And I want to elaborate on the factors contributing to these negative behaviors and the impact on individuals and society as a whole. The discompassionate, uncaring, divided, and negative behaviors we witness in society, they're all influenced by a multitude of factors that I could do a 10-hour show on from a sociological, socio-psychological perspective. They're all intertwined and very, very complex in the structure of our mathematics. And it's important to examine these factors to gain a comprehensive understanding of their impact. But even a basic understanding of their impact is very difficult if one has not studied these particular paradigms. Technological advancements, ladies and gentlemen, have significantly altered the way we communicate and interact with information. Of course, the rise of social media, while offering unprecedented connectivity, it's also led to the formation of echo chambers and filter bubbles. As I said earlier, these digital environments amplify pre existing beliefs and misbeliefs and disinformation and misinformation and fake news and, reinforce biases and hindering meaningful dialogue of any kind between avatars in the linguistic realm. People often gravitate towards sources that confirm their biases or their views. This happens in every conversation, every nanosecond, leading to a lack of empathy and understanding for any kind of differing perspectives that might present themselves within the context of linguistic exchange between two avatars at any one given time. And Chad, I'll let you uh, talk here in a moment. I just wanted to try to get through my thoughts. I pulled all this together, and it's very difficult to try and explain these things in a B C D E F G manner. But moreover, the advent of mind control technologies is very important, and it's often sensationalized for very good reason, and it has influenced our behavior to a major, major, major extent, ladies and gentlemen. These persuasive powers of targeted advertising, just speaking at a very basic level, targeted advertising, personalized content, the algorithmic manipulation shapes your preferences, it shapes your opinions, it shapes your behaviors. The proliferation of misinformation and disinformation further exacerbates divisions and sows seeds of distrust within our culture, within our society, with our people. All of these environmental factors, such as presence of genetically modified organisms and fluoride in the water supplies, these have been subjects of intense debate on our shows for many, many years now. And while scientific research indicates no significant adverse effects, you'll notice that all of these scientists have been bought and paid for. Every single one of them that I have researched, and the 27 or so scientists that I work with in my graduate degree studies have researched this in depth and found that these scientists are all bought and paid for, all bought and paid for, all bought and paid for. And so these concerns can lead to a sense of discompassion and division also, and these disagreements can lead to a major point of division among avatars as to is it right or is it wrong? Is it poison or is it not poison? As individuals perceive themselves as pitted against hidden forces beyond their control, well, they are pitted against forces beyond their control, but it's not just beyond their control, but you have to understand something, and then I'll let Chad make a comment here before I get in too deep. It's not just that it's beyond their control, but it's beyond their level of education. It's beyond their level of capacity to research and understand what research really is, and beyond their capacity to formulate the mathematical theorems that are necessary for the calculative analysis that goes into thousands of lines of code and calculation to be able to discuss and describe mathematically what's going on in the substrate. Chad, would you like to try? And I know it's difficult because you're not a PhD and I'm doctorate tonight, but I would like for you to kind of give us some insight, if you would, into what you're thinking.
Well, um, it's just like George Carlton said up at a young age, but it's how I explained it that the education system keeps you just smart enough to run the machines, but not smart enough to know that you're getting scanned. And that's what the much research. People don't know how to research it. Don't know how to do the basic don't follow stuff because the education hasn't taught us that. Plus, with the AI and media of putting things together is actually gone. We just type it up an answer, and now the mind doesn't, work to it. Is how the mind, as you said, targeted marketing. Targeted marketing is one of the subliminal messaging that's ever been created.
What?
They can literally make you buy what you want, and you think it's your own original idea. If you don't think it happens, we see it all the time. People are talking around, the people's cell phone. They're making them work a certain way through all the little bit of manipulation that they have to control you. It's to the way of thinking, which society mind is back then. I'm imagining for all the hypnosis, everybody would achieve troubleshoot on. They didn't have a computer to tell them what to do. Their brain had to do it. Has to do it. Now that we've become lazy, the thought process.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean
I'm
that's
looking at.
about what without hitting the high
I've,
ass levels.
I've hacked into some levels here. I'm looking at some substrates. Somebody is into our business here, Chad. I'm into the substrate now. I went behind the wall here. I'm looking. Somebody has inserted some malicious code. I'm getting rid of it now. Stand by just a second. Somebody has inserted some malicious code here. Can't believe this in the basic HTML programming. How are they doing this? What door are they coming in? I won't be able to tell until after the show. Well, let me say that the if you wanted to give an example of a lack of education, a lack of maturity, a lack of the ability and the passion to study and to research and to learn, comparatively, the sixth graders in Japan or China would equate to a second year graduate degree here in America. So basically, Americans are functionally retarded. Okay. I work with all of my graduate students, and these Japanese come in, with these Chinese come in. They're dedicated to education from 0 to 1 year old. They're already these kids at 4 years old are doing advanced algebra on an abacus. I mean, the kids here are still sucking their thumb and screaming for a pacifier at 14. They're still living with mommy and daddy at 25. And so you have to understand people in America don't like to hear this. They don't like to hear this. But as I said before, in my experience in all the different universities and both community colleges and central colleges that I've attended, I have seen that I can tell you that our uh, the sixth graders in Japan or in China um, are smarter than our second degree, associate degree students here coming out of a major university. Now, I want everyone to think about what I just said and understand how this equates to our political and socioeconomic and historical distribution, manufacturing, education, healthcare system here in the United States, and our leaders, so-called leaders' abilities to make these higher, very complex analytical decisions on the battlefield or in the air or on the sea, and also how to interpret science and the findings in science whenever our scientists are bought off and paid for to say what they want them to say, to do what they want them to do, to calculate the way they want them to calculate, and so forth and so on. But additionally, high level activities and power dynamics beyond the understanding of these folks here in the United States play a great role in all of these societal divisions. You have all of these apes running around here, all these monkey brains running around here, running into each other and having all of these dysfunctions of psychosis, major abnormal psychology going on constantly, immaturity, lack of education, lack of experience, lack of mentoring, lack of passion. The same things that I have experienced being in 5 years of major martial arts and studying four different levels of martial arts. You learn very quickly about dedication and focus and going beyond the target, to reach the mark. And you learn about concentration and you learn about responsibility, and it opens your eyes to a lot of things. But we're talking also about political polarization, as I said. Cultural clashes everywhere can lead to frustration, anger, and a sense of total helplessness among individuals, which is something I've taught for years here. These structural factors combined with the fast paced nature of our modern life, which is a silly, simpleton kind of life. Watch TV, go to work, go home, play video games, play with yourself, play video games again, watch the nightly news on the mainstream media, watch a movie, eat some popcorn, buy some pizza, go to bed, get up, do it all over again. The definition of insanity. We have information overload and the erosion of traditional support systems of all types. And this contributes to the emotional immaturity and depression and paranoia of individuals within our society. And what I've tried to do, though, tonight, what I wanted to do is provide a comprehensive overview of the factors that influence negative behaviors in our society. And I know that this really turns a lot of people off to hear these findings, given this complex landscape. What approaches or strategies do you believe can help address these issues, folks? You have to think about what I'm saying tonight and promote a more compassionate, cohesive, and harmonious human condition. Believe it or not, it requires education and maturity and focus and practice and dedication to the cause. And people are lazy in America. They're lazy. They spend hours and hours and hours on fictional video games and eating buttered popcorn and pizza and going out to the local bar and dancing and singing karaoke and watching football and tennis and baseball and hockey and golf and rooting for their best team, and putting all their concentration in the shithole. And this is why our country is falling apart at the seams right now. Okay, we're trying to address the negative aspects of our current climate, and this requires a multifaceted approach, ladies and gentlemen, a multifaceted approach first and foremost. We have to promote critical thinking and media literacy. This is crucial. And we have to equip individuals, at least that's what I've been trying to do for years on this show, with the ability to evaluate information objectively and discern reliable sources to help counteract the effects of misinformation and or algorithmic manipulation, which is happening in the simulation all the time. Emotions play a big part in all of this. Disemotions or misemotions or dysfunctional emotions or anger or the ability to react to your environment instead of interact with your environment, coming from a very highly educated, mature perspective. Most people are coming from a very dysfunctional limbic monkey brain shit sandwich kind of cerebral cortex there in the lower basement area that I always talking about. But building empathy and fostering a sense of community is equally important. And that's the only way we're going to do this, is to change the educational paradigm, encouraging open dialogue. We need open dialogue, but this often leads to debate. This often leads to anger. This often leads to violence. Most of the time it does. We need to learn to respect each other's differing perspectives. But there again, you meet people that are so ignorant you don't even want to talk to them because they're in the second grade or they're in the third grade or they're dysfunctional, they're emotional, they're dramatic, they're drama kings, they're drama queens, they're lazy, they haven't studied, they haven't researched, they haven't concentrated, they haven't practiced, they haven't been on the front line, they haven't had the experience. Education plays a pivotal role in this regard, as it provides the foundation of critical thought and empathy and the appreciation of diversity. But at the same time, you have to understand diversity is good to a point. Diversity is good to a point, but when it comes to a policy perspective, regulation and transparency regarding the uses of these technologies can help mitigate negative influences. Stricter guidelines for social media platforms are not the answer, I don't think. Algorithmic transparency is complex, and efforts to combat misinformation and contribute to a healthier digital ecosystem is complex because everyone has a say as to what is right and what is wrong, what should be said and what should not be said, what should be censored and what should not be censored. So we get into this multi layer of very complex socio psychological clusterfuck, and it just doesn't get us anywhere. But lastly, I would like to emphasize mental health support and holistic well being as being very vital in this quest that I'm on personally. This is the reason I'm getting two doctorates, and of course, my main doctorate will be in sociology, sociopsychology, and physics and neurology, as well as I have a degree in emergency medicine, anatomy and physiology, and cardiopharmacology, which gives me kind of a working knowledge of the elusive physical material anatomy and physiology, as well as the cerebral cortex. But recognizing the pressures of modern life and offering resources for emotional resilience, that's what I'm trying to do here. But people sometimes perceive it in the wrong way and they run away from the emotional resilience that I'm trying to provide. Stress management, I'm trying to provide, and community engagement. This can combat emotional immaturity and depression and paranoia that we talked about earlier. We need to create a more compassionate, cohesive, and harmonious human condition requiring living, loving, and learning requires collective effort. And by addressing all of these challenges through very informed action, you need a mentor, you need a master Shia as myself, you need a master yogi as myself, you need a master teacher as myself. We can pave the way for a future where understanding and empathy and cooperation prevail among all dysfunction and all destruction, and we can move to a higher level of commonality and understanding and synchronicity in that way. I've tried to offer some expertise and insights and strategies for addressing these very, 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 very complex and confusing issues. And I hope you have all gained a deeper understanding of the human condition. Sadly, in our time, it's very short. It's very short, and many of you are so far behind the curve, so far behind the curve. My perspective on the human condition, I want it to be truly thought provoking, you know, and I want to delve deeper into the contrasting perspectives that have been presented so far. I want to elaborate further on the concept of simulations within simulations and the implications that it's going to have on our understanding of reality itself and consciousness itself in a way that the fans out there can truly comprehend. Many of you have heard me teach on these subjects before, but we need to really explore the concept of simulations within simulations within simulations within simulations within simulations into infinity in a more accessible manner, we should say. Imagine for a moment that our reality is akin to a computer generated simulation, much like the virtual worlds that you encounter in your video games. Well, this simulation, however, it's not the ultimate reality, but rather a construct created by an advanced civilization as yourself, which itself exists within another simulation that was created by another civilization that was created by another simulation or civilization, forming an infinite chain. Now, the idea of being part of this simulation, it raises profound questions about the nature of our reality and our sense of self. Self being that multiplex. It suggests that our actions and experiences may be predetermined or est like predetermined, prescripted, like characters in the video game following pre-programmed paths. This challenges our traditional notions of free will, and it raises intriguing philosophical questions about the nature of consciousness itself. Consider those of you who are video game freaks, which I'm not. I've never played them except at a friend's house the other day. Consider the character in a video game. They must possess a sense of agency and personal identity, but in reality, their existence and actions are governed by the rules and limitations imposed by you, the programmer, the handler. Similarly, if we're a part of a simulation, it suggests that our perceived reality might be constrained by a set of rules and parameters beyond our comprehension. Do you think the players in your game have a level of consciousness beyond the comprehension of their current programming and calculations? Or do they have any sentience at all? This prompts us to question the nature of our consciousness as we question the cursor as it moves to the right side of our screen and vanishes, or Schrodinger's cat theory, or thermodynamics, or the speed of light equals mc squared. It prompts us to question the nature of our consciousness and whether it transcends the boundaries of the simulation, or is it confined within as we are confined within a virtual framework. It's crucial to note, okay, that the simulation hypothesis is real. It's real. We have concrete empirical evidence that it's real, and it's captivating. It's captivating, and it's philosophically just absurd, but miraculous all at the same time, and elative. Um, it has been scientifically validated, okay, and it provides fertile ground for many more thought experiments or calculations or coding within the program. And every one of you, of course, can approach this with skepticism until more compelling evidence emerges within uh, your programming. But I just wanted all of you to know. Tomorrow night, we will explore the perspective of our biological existence in a physical world that you think you're in with more clarity, and our understanding of biology and neurology and physics. It offers tangible evidence that supports this view in many of your minds through misinformation and disinformation and lack of education and lack of research and the lack of ability for you to perform higher mathematical functions and equations. But in the realm of biology, we observe this very intricate web of life on Earth, of which we're all an integral part. Um, I'm having problems even finding Chad. I don't know why he keeps going away and coming back. I don't know what's going on here tonight. This is just insane. Totally insane. Literally insane.
Dude, they've
But
done
I'll
so many attacks on me in the past 2 weeks. It's unreal.
but I'll finish and let Chad take over. But one crucial factor is the impact of technology on our communication and our information landscape, ladies and gentlemen. Social media platforms, they offer unprecedented connectivity and have unintentionally, I would say, contributed to the formation of echo chambers and filter bubbles. Like I said, these digital environments, they create self-reinforcing feedback loops where people are exposed mainly to information that aligns with their existing beliefs due to the algorithms and the data and the phishing expeditions and that are going on within the context of these algorithms, which are designed to program the individual avatar to do what they want it to go where they want you to go, to buy what they want you to buy, to think what they want you to think, to react and interact the way they want you to think and interact, further entrenching these viewpoints upon viewpoints upon viewpoints upon viewpoints, which become cognitive. And then we have cognitive dissonance when someone is confronted with a new idea or someone is chastised for something. They get mad, they get angry, and they react in judgment instead of stopping to think. I'm talking to a Shia or a master teacher here. I need to be respectful and listen because I'm an ignorant monkey. This phenomena leads to a lack of empathy and understanding for all perspectives, ultimately fostering discompassion and division, ultimately separating people, dividing families, dividing employer, employee, dividing neighbor against neighbor, you know, and these mind control technologies, oh my God, they're sensational. They've led to the total influence of all avatars on Earth who have not been able to escape the matrix, who do not come from the particular dimension that I come from. Targeted individuals are everywhere. Targeted advertising, as we said earlier, is poison. Personalized content, poison. Psychodemographic analyzation and injection, poison. Algorithmic manipulation, poison. It shapes your preferences, it shapes your opinions, it shapes your behaviors and have since you were born. These techniques, they exploit your cognitive biases and steer you towards certain destruction because of ideologies and behaviors that are not real and that should not be in your paradigm, your capacity, and it all happens without your conscious awareness. This is what I'm always saying about being aware of awareness, and nobody gets it. Nobody gets it. Being conscious of consciousness, being conscious of the dream within the dream, stepping back from the projection and getting into the audience and looking at the stage you were on. The pervasiveness of misinformation and disinformation exacerbates these divisions and creates these wars and this anger and um, this mistrust and distrust and paranoia and depression and stress and all of these other factors. I'll stop there, and I need to take a break. My mind is I've got smoke coming out of my ears. Chad.
Yeah, as you were saying about the avatars, they've done several movies about it that explain exactly what you're talking about. If you ever watched the movie Gamer, you see that somebody controls another avatar. The avatar is somewhat conscious, but still doesn't understand what's. And this is what we are. We are avatars, and these vessels are, you know, whatever you want to call them, that was designed for us to be here, and we still rules. Metaphorically saying, we're still trying to learn the parameters of the rules of the video game that we're locked into. During this video game, as you see, games, they give you leads, they do false missions that back you. Well, that's what's going on with the misinformation and disinformation giving us today into society. It's all for hunger. You animation ran out of the destruction of the world, and everybody's main goal is actually to figure out how to. When you're one of the ones that went through the game and you just skip information and you're right there, just let's go play. You don't own controls, so you're not good at it. That's where everybody's at. Everybody's skipped instruction manuals per se. Through education, the video game and they have buttons are. That was like Kiler when you was playing a game, you didn't know any of the buttons. You could have did a training course, but you know what I mean. Learn under, basically, and that's where everybody's at right now. Nobody knows the controls of the joystick of life, and they're just winging it. And once people figure out what the controls are that they have control inside the simulation that we can change a lot in the game. But right now we're just listening to nonsense that spills the news on the video. Oh, warning, zombies attack city, blah blah blah. Fear and destruction. It's right there in front of us. It's all
Well,
division.
the thing that I really want to emphasize tonight is immaturity and drama and people that react to their environment based on their lack of intelligence and lack of discipline and lack of passion and lack of awareness to find a master teacher, to find someone who is very, very competent and very, very aware of awareness and conscious of consciousness and has the calculations and has done the work and written the code and gone down those rabbit holes of top secret classified rabbit holes and has an advanced education and advanced experience and perception and knowledge and talent of all of these different areas. Most people have been programmed to stay away from those masters. If you will think, most people have been, like you made a statement last night that proves that you're one of those people. You said, just because somebody's old, I don't have to respect them. I don't have to listen to them. It doesn't mean they're smart. That doesn't mean they're wise. You made a very incompetent statement last night. Very incompetent. You're not thinking. Seniors should be respected to the highest degree of respect. They should be honored and revered
But
overall
doesn't mean
in
to have
everything
wisdom
and
and
anything.
intelligence.
It doesn't. That's not the
Age
point. The
has both
point.
wisdom
That doesn't
and
point. That's not the point. See, you're arguing with me now. I know, but you're like you're
manipulating my
arguing with.
comment. You're manipulating comment. My comment was age is wisdom or intelligence. What was not this? It was about wisdom and
I'm just
intelligence.
proving how easy it is to trigger someone, and you just
I'm
got
not
triggered.
triggering. We
You just got
I'm not
triggered.
triggering the
Yes, you are.
facts that you're
Yes.
manipulating. This. You want to see triggered? Watch this. I'll show you triggered.
What is that? What did this man do? Did he hang up or what? Did Chad hang up in there? Is Chad gone? No, that's okay. Leave it alone. Ladies and gentlemen, you see, you have this test that you do with people with avatars. And we were going to go through the testing phase tomorrow night on how you can test people to see at what level they are on and at what level they are at in the thinking process or thinking about thinking or concentrating within the concentration process or being able to see the dream within the dream or being able to be aware of awareness or whatever. So what I'm trying to do is get my producer's attention, just leave it alone. So therefore, it's very very important to put these tests before people, as we are all tested. Okay, we're all tested, and we're all tested, and we're all tested. Just like, and so that's what I'm trying to get across tonight to show you how easy it is to do these litmus tests to see where people reside in their consciousness and in their experience and in their perception of being with a master teacher. People are very paranoid, very afraid, very stressed. They get very stressed out. They get pushed against the wall very quickly when you go against their narrative that they've been programmed with misinformation or disinformation or to think or try to keep up with their master teacher. You can't keep up with your master teacher. If you're in the third grade and your master teacher has 4 doctorates, there's no way you're going to be able to do anything but spend 10 years in that monastery trying to figure out what's going on in the game of the Matrix. So I think I proved a very good point tonight. I think I proved a really powerful point tonight. And as soon as I get up and get away from this outside chair, I'm going to go in and look at the chat and see how that's working out in the chat. I'm going to have a drink of my Dr. Pepper here. I need to take my heart pills here in a minute. But anger, ladies and gentlemen, is a sign of ignorance. Okay, I want you all to know this. Anger is a sign of ignorance. Okay, and stupidity and dysfunction and immaturity, and it can happen so quickly. It can happen so quickly, and I mean, it can happen um, with just a few nanoseconds. Okay, and he got triggered really easily for no reason really whatsoever. I was just making a very, very intelligent observation that last night Chad had, sit back in his chair. And I could see his facial expressions, and I could see his pupillary responses, and I could see um, his skin responses, and I could see his posture and body language through my neurolinguistic programming evaluation techniques. And he was angry. He was angry. He started out angry, and he ended up angry. And then he made the comment about our elders and our senior citizens. Um, that's no reason to get angry, you know. And to say that we don't have to listen to seniors, or that just because someone is old they don't have wisdom or experience, is just ridiculous, completely ridiculous. And I know that they're listening right now. I know that they're listening to the show. And Chad, you should really, really think about what I'm saying and take it back. Just take it back, take it back, take a look, take a strong, strong look at what's going on here. Okay. You're pounding the rice in the rain outside the temple, and you will be pounding the rice now for another 6 months. And your back will be beaten bloody by the Zen master, because mine was beat bloody for a year. Because at one time I had your level of comprehension and your level of dissonance and your level of anger. And, everybody comes to the table wanting to prove how smart they are. Good evening, Harry, and hello, Sandy. And Kim, I think, is here also, possibly. Let me see if Kim's here. Rhonda's here. Yeah, that's wonderful. But anyway, it's very, very difficult to understand these things. These are very, very deep wells, and they're very dangerous places to travel. And most people live in this agency of anger and drama and judgment and labeling. And most people are so easily triggered. I can trigger someone within 5 seconds or 10 seconds just by using my eyes or my body language or maybe a foot movement or a hand movement or take a step back or take a step forward. People are very, very easily triggered that are not highly educated and not highly concentrated on their inner self, their interactions, or they're not conscious of consciousness, or they're not aware of awareness. And most people who go into these situations, they don't realize that, hey, I've got a lot to learn. I've got a lot to learn here. I've got a lot to figure out. And it's very complex and it's very hard to do. And it takes years of experience and practice and concentration to be able to master the art of mental martial arts or physical martial arts or spiritual martial arts. And most people just do not want to take the time to do that because most people come to the table and are trained by the deep state algorithm to have these types of reactions to others in the sphere of the context of the matrix in order to continue the pathway of resistance and the pathway of division and the pathway of anger and stress and depression and so forth. Confusion is one of the biggest things I should say, and fear. The fear of looking stupid, or the fear of looking ignorant, or the fear of not being as smart as the teacher, or the fear of not being as smart as the master, or not being able to fight as well as the master martial artist who is teaching those students. But I am, just trying to make a point tonight for all of you who have friends in your circle, or acquaintances in your circle, or neighbors in your neighborhood. Watch these people. They can be very, very dangerous, and they can turn on you like a viper. And it's my job to test the waters. It's my job to test the cerebral cortex. It's my job to test people to see what's going on in their cerebral cortex. And action does mean everything. Lots of mental abuse made Harry realize what's the point of anger. I'm content and always brings happiness to most people. Harry, that's a good thing to say. It's a very good way to look at it. And the business that we're in, Marion and I, we deal with some very high level operations, and we have to have people around us that are well put together, well rounded, and who understand the depth of understanding, and the misunderstanding of what's been misunderstood, and the dream within the dream, and the consciousness within the consciousness, and the awareness within the awareness. And these things take years, as I said, to perfect. And it's very, very, very difficult, very, very difficult to get a handle on these things. And so it's wonderful for you all to hear the show tonight and to kind of get a grasp on what some of these things are about. Many of my graduate students are asking me about the mathematical paradigms and how they work. I wanted to stress, one person is asking, why does math work so well to describe physical reality? Well, I can tell you right now that such entities exist within the universe, so it might possibly be that mathematics, as something that things within the universe do, can only exist in universities where such entities exist. Mathematics is a language, and it can describe many things in many aspects, or entire universes that don't even exist. Um, so, is mathematics independent of the physical world? Well, some math is independent of the physical world. Some is dependent on the physical world, depending on whether you're doing trigonometry or geometry or higher calculus, or you're looking at different spheres in geometry, or the golden ratios and so forth. Scientists are we're constantly looking for mathematics that helps us to explain the real world around us, which is very hard to do. And it helps us predict things that might be discovered in the future through these mathematical equations and paradigms. But mathematics definitely helps us to understand the world. It gives us a way to understand patterns and to qualify relationships, and to predict the future. This is why AI is so important today, because it can predict the future out 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 500 years. Math helps us to understand the world around us, and we use the world to understand math. And the world is interconnected, and everyday math shows these connections and these possibilities and potentials. We deal with potentials a lot in hypothetical math, theoretical math. There are many, many, many kinds of math, but physics, uh, the math related to physics, for instance, math is a tool, and it's used to answer questions. Newton invented calculus to help describe motion, specifically motion of the planets. And for mathematicians, physics can be a source of inspiration with theoretical concepts such as general relativity, quantum theory, providing the impetus for mathematics to develop new tools. All of these things are very, very important. But understanding the world through math is something that most people had rather not think about. They'd rather not do, because it's very difficult. The body of knowledge and practice known as mathematics, it's derived from the contributions of thinkers throughout the ages. and across the globe and around the globe. It gives us a way to understand patterns and to qualify and quantify relationships. And as I said, predict the future. It helps us understand the world around us. And we use the world to understand math. So math uses the world and the world uses math. And these two come together. As we know, the world is interconnected. Everyday math shows these connections and possibilities, and the earlier young learners, like those who have been on tonight, can put these skills to practice if they just take their time and chill out and relax and learn to listen to those who have come before them and already done the hard work. The more likely we will remain an innovation society and an economy rather than a monkey brain society like most people we know. But algebra, for instance, can explain how quickly water becomes contaminated and how many people in a third world country drinking that water might become sickened on a yearly basis. It can give us the exact calculations. A study of geometry can explain the science behind architecture throughout the world. Statistics and probability can estimate death tolls from earthquakes and conflicts and other calamities around the world, as we did it in Katrina when I was there. It can also predict profits and losses, and it can predict how ideas and viewpoints and perspectives spread and how previously endangered animals might repopulate the planet or not. It's a powerful tool for global understanding and communication, and if you can learn to use it, you can make sense of the world and solve very complex and real problems in the matrix, even as an avatar in the game. But rethinking math in a global context offers people a twist on the typical content that makes the math itself more applicable and meaningful for the student. But to function in a global context as one in my profession and my shoes, where I've walked, uh, math content helps get us to global competence, to more global competence, which is understanding different and more complex perspectives and world conditions and configurations and paradigms. Recognizing that issues are interconnected around the world, as well as communicating and acting in appropriate ways. It also has to do with psychology and sociology. In math, it means reconsidering the typical content of atypical ways, or abnormal psychology, and showing people how the world consists of situations, events, and phenomena that can be sorted out using the right mathematical tools. And I think this is very, very important. Math is often studied as a pure science. Many of you are concerned about this. Is math, studied as a pure science? But it's typically applied to many other disciplines, extending well beyond physics and engineering. Um, for instance, studying exponential growth and decay, the rate at which things will grow and die within the context of population growth, or the spread of disease or water contamination, is very meaningful. And it not only gives people a real world context in which to use the math, but it helps them understand the global phenomena, especially the psychological and sociological phenomena. They may hear about a disease spreading in India, but can't make the connection without understanding how fast something like cholera can spread in a dense population. Math can tell us how that works. In fact, adding a study of growth and decay to lower algebra, it's most often found in algebra 2, or intermediate algebra. It will give the person a chance to study it in a global context than if it's reserved to the upper level math that not all students might take. So, in a similar vein, though, a study of statistics and probability is key to understanding many of the events of the world, and it's usually reserved for students like myself of the higher levels of math and psychology and sociology and neurology and cosmology and astrophysics and physics and quantum mechanics. if it gets any study in high school at all, because it doesn't. And this is a shame that our elementary students and our high school students are at a fourth grade level. When they graduate, they're at a fourth or fifth grade level of understanding of the world, the model of the world, or the matrix around them. But statistics can be used to estimate death tolls from natural disasters and earthquakes and tsunamis, the amount of aid that might be necessary to help in the aftermath of a cleanup is what we use for disasters, like our disaster team, and the number of people who would be displaced in some kind of activity or chaos or destruction that might come from Yellowstone erupting or a major tsunami coming in from an asteroid hit or tectonic plate movement such as an earthquake, or what would happen um, in a bad tornado season, or weather patterns or climatic patterns or calculations. So, yeah, all of these things are important. All these things are very important. And it's very, very, very interesting um, how, yeah, Harry, math is really in everything. It's just in everything. It's unbelievable. It's just really unbelievable how all of this works. And science really does not understand. Mathematicians do not even understand how this math comes about and how it works so congenially or so perfectly at times with physical material illusion or in the matrix, and at times it does not. At many times we miscalculate and we lose components of the code or components of the calculation. And it takes, as I said, just to write a basic code for a computer program can take thousands upon thousands, if not millions, of lines of code. Stephen Hawking was notorious for writing thousands and thousands of lines of code, and so was Einstein and Niels Bohr and many, many others, as well as Plato and Aristotle and many of the great mathematicians of the past. A lot of people, though, are afraid of math. I wanted to stress on that point. A lot of people are terrified of math. Around the fourth or fifth grade, they start losing it and they start just not wanting to do it anymore. It becomes too complex when they get beyond division or basic multiplication tables or addition tables, and then they start getting into fractions and points of fractions, and then when they start getting into positive versus negative numbers and so forth, things get very, very complex and choppy when they get into pi or phi or phi. Or they get into the advanced calculus, which we use Latin symbols for, in physics, they get very complicated. But really, what physics math does, it breaks things down into small chunks rather than writing something out in longhand. It's kind of like shorthand that many of the secretaries used to use, or it's kind of like a court reporter would do in court. Instead of typing out the whole word, they use symbols and codes to shorten things where they can follow the conversation. Math is the same way. You're using parentheses and dashes and dits and dots and things to, and little squigglies in Latin, squigglies, to be able to compensate for, say, writing a 20-inch code versus a inch and a half code. So you're breaking things down into finer components and much easier to use calculations. So that's all math is really, and that's all advanced math is. It's just taking very long and arduous calculations and breaking them down into smaller pieces and fragments that can be completely digested and understood much quicker for the people around you that are working with you. So, yeah, Harry, I want to thank you for tuning in tonight, brother. It really means a lot to me. I want to thank all of you for tuning in. Sandy, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I know you're working, and I know that it's really difficult sometimes to listen to these types of shows at work, or any types of shows at work for that matter. I used to do it. I used to actually do my show from the hospital room when I had my cancer. I was doing a show with four different lines in me, a couple of IVs bilaterally, and both anticubital running ringers, lactate, and D5W with piggybacks, and had tubes in my stomach and feeding tubes, and had tubes in my spine. And here I am doing a radio talk show. Kind of strange, kind of crazy. I had to take another drink of my Dr. Pepper. I'm a Dr. Pepper freak. I tell you, that's my crack cocaine, Dr. Pepper. Uh, but yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you really find out a lot about people when you put them to the test, you know? You put them to the test psychologically, philosophically, sociologically. You find out who you're dealing with and what you're dealing with, and we have to do that. We simply have to do that when we're on an important mission and when we're directed toward a higher purpose. And we're very. It's hard to do. Always enjoy to learn something or read, re-educate myself. Harry, yes, 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 definitely so. It's always good to learn something new. The problem is most people don't want to learn anything new. Most people think they already know it all. And this is a very, very sad, sad situation to see people wither away like this. Because they wither away in the same place that they'll always be, and that's nowhere. And they do the same thing in the same old way, and they get the same old results, which is a definition of insanity, right? And a lot of your younger people today, we have problems with our younger squirts out there thinking that they're hot stuff. You know, they're cocky and they're hot stuff, and they know this and they know that, and they've read this and read that, and they can pronounce a few big words and maybe spell a couple of them too, and they all of a sudden just stop learning at that point in time. You know, it's terrible that they do this because it cuts off any potential that they might have to get to that higher level of consciousness that we call nirvana, you know, or perfective consciousness, to get to that most high level of ultimate awareness. It's an amazing place to be. It's a beautiful place to be. It's actually paradise in its own way. Um, but yeah, Harry, thank you for being here. I mean, thank you for listening, and thank you for not reacting as so many people do to basic critique. A lot of people can't handle critique, and that shows their inability to run high missions or dangerous missions, or to be given special weapons of any kind or special projects of any kind, or to be sent into certain areas, specific areas of danger, to do to do extractions or to do infiltrations or to work undercover. You have to test people to the nth degree in every possible way that you can, and we do that, and we do that, and we do that for reasons of safety and for reasons of transparency and for reasons of trust and for reasons of safety and security, for national security. You cannot work with people uh, that are mentally ill or that have tempers and are high drama, high maintenance, as we say. You can't work with people who are triggered easily or highly sensitive to being critiqued from an older, more experienced person in the game. And so, if anyone is going to be chosen for a high position anywhere, they're going to be tested to the nth degree. They're going to be tested in every way possible when they least expect it. They're being tested. And then when they think they've graduated, that's when they're really being tested. And most fail. That's why only two people out of 100 make this team of ours. You know, all of our people that work with us are extended around the world and are very invisible and very clandestine. We don't all pile up together in the old RV and, you know, smoke dope and cook crack and meth and drive around the neighborhood acting like a bunch of idiots. We all are clandestine and we're spread out all over the globe, and we work very independently, but yet together collectively at the same time. And we accomplish many missions, and we have many goals and many objectives, and it's a wonderful group of people. I would say our group consists of 250 individuals globally. And that's not a lot of people, but when you have highly intelligent people working with you on specific missions, you can get a lot done. The smarter, the more intuitive, the more intelligent, the wiser, the more experienced. the more critical thinkers can stay on the team and become a major part of the team and a major part of the mission. And you can get a lot more accomplished. The smarter, the more experienced, the more talented, the more cool, the more calm, the more collected the team is, the better off everyone is. But yeah, Harry, you're welcome for the education, and it's really you that should be honored for receiving it. Those who cannot receive the education, those who cannot receive the critique, those who cannot receive the analysis of their behavior and be called out in specific situations are not worthy of these missions. And they're not worthy because they're a danger to the team, they're a danger to the operation, and they cannot be entrusted with higher level confidential information that is classified and or top secret. So people show themselves. People show themselves in relationships. And I make predictions about relationships all the time because I am a mathematician and I can mathematically quantify and qualify a relationship by saying that everything starts out well in the beginning, but then as time goes by, things start to slowly fall apart and the bricks start to fall out one by one, by one, by one, by one. Um, I'll be glad to, Harry. I'll be glad to. I'll be glad to. I'll find you. Email me, Harry. Would you email me tonight, and I'll get with you privately. I don't want to. I don't want to give out any more information tonight, except my email. Can you email me at d? It's D as in dog. D Kiler, Kiler. I'll put it here in chat at gmail.com. It's DKILER 2010 at gmail.com, and I'll come to you and do the labor and work with you, and whatever you're doing, I will do it. I love hard labor. I grew up hauling hay and building fence, and I've still got the blisters to prove all the post holes I've dug with a post hole digger, and all of the cross ties I've handled, and all of the barns I've built, and all the homes I've built, and all of the lakes that I've dug with my bulldozer, my front end loader, and all of the hay that I've hauled, grabbing those wires of that heavy hay and throwing it on the truck, 1,400 bales a day, three of us working, putting them up in the barn at night, and building Cox fence and building wood fence, building barbed wire fence, and building it all. And it's amazing. It's amazing that I've used my hands. I'm happy to have said that I've used my hands and I've used my head. I've used my brain and I've used my brawn. And it's good to be able to put those two things together, brain and brawn. And it's also good to um, have come through as much as I've come through and still be breathing and still be on the planet with as sick as I have been with cancer and with heart attacks and with all of these other near fatal accidents I've had. And to be disrespected like I was tonight on air is just unacceptable. Just unacceptable. Will not be accepted. You work with the Amish and going to Connecticut to build Amish houses. I'm pretty good at basic framing, Harry. Uh, pretty good at basic framing. I can handle a hammer. I can handle a 16 penny nail, and I can handle a nail gun, and I can handle a compressor. And I'm a pretty good airless spray guy, and I'm good at cutting and fairly good at measuring. Not a master, but fairly good at measuring. The framers, some of them call down the measurements, and you really have to know what you're doing when they call the measurements down. You really have to know what you're doing. A lot of people don't understand how complicated that gets when you've got a good framer going up there and they're hollering for those studs and they're building those walls and they're building those braces and they're putting up those rafters and they're getting those angle cuts. You've got to really know what you're doing, or they'll throw you off the job within 20 minutes. And I've been there and done that. And I had to learn the hard way working with daddy and working with my uncle who is still in a coma, by the way, tonight. Um, he's in a coma, and just a terrible accident happened with them, and I've been very upset about that. And it's just we're waiting for the doctors to call and give us the news that they're going to take him off life support. I don't know what's going to happen yet, but people don't seem to care that Marion and I are going through these things. They're living on such a low limbic level brain system. People tend to forget sometimes what we're going through and how it might affect our conversation. Thank you for your prayers, Harry. Thank you for your prayers. But if it wasn't for Mary, I tell you, life would be really, really, really rough. The only reason I'm staying here on this orb is because of Mary. I wouldn't stay here for any of these other idiots that I encounter. Now, Harry, I might stay here for you. You seem like a very intelligent guy. You seem like a very intuitive person, and you seem like that you're willing to learn and listen and learn new things and new ways of thinking and processing. And that is a attribute that is to be honored, my friend. It's an attribute that is to be honored. Um, we're going back to Blog Talk Radio next week, Harry. If you'll email me, I'll give you the number, and all the rest of you, Sandy, if you'll get that email and email me, I'll send you the new number, phone number for the new show that's coming back up. I'm going back to Blog Talk Radio. I've done 5,000 plus shows over there, and I'm going to go back to Blog Talk. We're just not getting the technical support here at Restream that we got at Blog Talk. So, yes, I will be going back to Blog Talk Radio next week. So please email me at that email that I put on the screen, and I will give you all the new show and the new places and the new spaces and keep you posted on the missions and keep you posted on all of the other things that we're doing. And I love you all very, very, very much. And I appreciate you all being here tonight. It means so much to Marion and I. It means so much to us, all of our fans and supporters around the world, and we have many. We have many. Our show has been downloaded, multiple shows over 19 years. We've probably reached 3.5 million, 4 million, 5 million people, and that's amazing. And if I died tonight, I could say that I've lived a beautiful, wonderful, happy, fantastic, just thrilling, sometimes dangerous life. But I've loved every minute of it. I've even the hard times have been good. Even the bad times have been amazing, especially when you're coming through it with someone that you love, like I love Mary. You can get through anything. You can get through the storms when you have a good companion with you. And I hope that all of you find that companion if that's what you seek. Many of you do not need a companion. Many of you are fine alone, and that's okay. But many of you, I wish that you find, and I hope and I pray that you find a companion that you can be with that's open and transparent and not jealous and not a drama king or a drama king or someone who doesn't like to gossip and slander and blah 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 and talk and somebody that's not angry and disillusioned and unstable, mentally unstable and immature and all of those things and qualities that tear people apart, just tear people apart, tear friends apart. And so, you guys take care, and I love you. And I'm going to go now. I have to call the hospital and see if they're going to take my uncle off life support and see how much longer my aunt's going to live. We're not sure at this point in time. Plus, I've got another relative that's got leukemia, and we're very, very much in prayer for them tonight. And I've got some other things going on that we are trying to take care of as best we can without falling apart. But people like you, Harry, and Sandy, and all of the rest of you, Kim, and everyone, I love you lots, and really appreciate y'all to the max. And I'll see you here tomorrow night. And then, as I said, let me go ahead and give you the Blog Talk Radio number. I think it's still. Let me think. Let me get it here. Um, Here we go. That's the call in number for Blog Talk Radio. Right there. There it is. Take care, Harry, and love y'all, like I said, very much. Life goes on. May the force be with you all. And I'll see you here tomorrow night. We'll talk a little more about this crazy, crazy, crazy world that we're living in with these crazy, crazy, undependable people. Um, wow. Y'all take care. May the force be with you. My prayers are with all of you. Bye bye.